In this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to install a company scorecard into your business step by step, which is the same scorecard that I utilize in all of my companies that are doing multiple millions of dollars a year in revenue. And this will work for you whether you're just getting your business off the ground or whether you're already doing maybe 7 figures a year or more. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to pass what I call the deserted island test, which essentially means you will have all of the major metrics that are important to know the health of your business so that you could literally leave your business for weeks at a time, talk to nobody, and know whether your business is healthy or if it's failing. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, as we begin diving in, I want to get you a copy of this so that you're able to literally just follow along side by side with me so that you can, by the end of this video, have your scorecard set up and ready to go to implement into your business. So if you go to the YouTube description below, I have a link there that you could follow and actually download this template so that you can follow along step by step. While you go ahead and do that, I want to share just a quick story about how most business owners are operating and why it's causing them to be less profitable and why most businesses end up failing within a few years. Imagine if I live in Arizona and I wanted to, for example, drive to New York City, which is across the country. I set out to have that as my goal, and I jump in the car and I just start driving. I don't use my navigation. I don't look at my gauges at all or nothing on my dashboard whatsoever. I'm probably going to run into some problems on the way to New York City. One, I don't have the navigation system set in. Two, I didn't check, did I actually have gas to actually make it to at least the next gas station before I have to fill up again. Three, did I make sure my tire pressure was enough in my tires so I didn't end up getting a flat tire or having an issue along the road? Did I check to make sure my check engine light wasn't on so my freaking engine doesn't catch on fire on this drive to New York City? And you may be wondering, well, why are we talking about a drive when we're talking about a scorecard? Well, the reason is this is the same way that most business owners operate their business. They do not have a scorecard in place that gives them the data they need to make those decisions that are most critical for their business. And like driving to New York City, you need to check your tire pressure. You need to make sure there's gas in the tank. You need to, likely put in a navigation system on your phone so you can avoid the roads that may be closed or there's construction and it's going to take you extra long to pass that route. Those are all of the things that we do when we go on a road trip. But when we're running our business, most people are just running blind and they're running from this feeling and this gut, by the hip. They're like, okay, if I have cash in the bank today, I think I'm okay. Or if, I made some good sales this week, I think my business is okay. But do you really know if your business is healthy? This is what we're talking about is going to help you fix that so you can feel confident in the decisions that you make in your business and so that you can become more profitable with working less at the same time. Now, so as you pull up your scorecard and are following along here, I just want to lay a few foundational pieces of your scorecard just for some expectation setting for you, especially if you've never done this before, which this will be totally easy for you to get done yourself, even if you never have. But one thing to keep in mind is when you first start on your scorecard and you start building this out, you're likely going to have to do a few iterations of this. Meaning you might fill it out the first day when you get yours completed. And then as you're reviewing this on a weekly basis, you may identify that maybe there's some certain things that are missing that you need to add to your scorecard so that you're able to have all of the information that you need to make good decisions for your business. From an expectation standpoint, I would plan that it'll typically take you somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks to have a really refined scorecard that gives you a clear picture of your entire business from a high level view. And so that is the goal that we're going to get to. And today it's about getting it to that point where you have most of the information, but you're going to forget things, and that's okay. So you're going to be looking at this on a weekly basis. Every single week without fail, you'll be uploading your data to this, and you're going to be reviewing it every week to make good decisions for your company. So now let's just dive into the scorecard itself and talk about some of the elements to this thing. So as you'll see here, and I'll zoom in a little bit. So as you see, there's a few components here. There's the department, which is, essentially just the department that this area of the scorecard is going to be covering. And so let's just add a few departments on here just for, as we're getting started here. So let's say, we got marketing, we have sales, we have operations, and we have finance. And so these are the core areas of every business, regardless of what type of service business you have. These will be the core pillars that you're going to be building out onto your scorecard. And every business, the way I look at them is like a conveyor belt. And that's why I start in this order of marketing, then sales, then operations, and finance, because we need to get leads to come into our conveyor belt. And then once those leads come into our conveyor belt, what we want to be able to do from there is they fall onto the conveyor belt. Then our sales mechanism is at the start of the conveyor belt that pushes those sales down the line to operations to fulfill on the service that we sold our customer on to buy. And then finance is the thing that holds everything together within the organization to make sure that marketing is being done profitably, that our sales and sales team and commission structure is done well so we don't lose money when we're paying our sales team to sell our stuff. And then operations, from a financial standpoint, are our operations efficient to create a profit? And then obviously just the overall financial health of the business. How are we doing so we can make decisions to help us grow and scale our company? Those are the four main components that we're going to be building off of on the scorecard from this point going forward. And then we have the owner, which there's a saying that I have around our companies, which is, if two people are responsible for feeding the dog will starve. There needs to be an owner of who's going to be accountable for this data. And so if it's just you and your business and you're solo dolo doing everything yourself, your name will be on all of these right here. And if you have a team, this is where you're going to be assigning those team members to individual categories on your scorecard. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to use my name and then my head of operations just for the example here. So let's say that I'm responsible for the number reporting on our marketing. Let's just throw these on here. Boom. Okay. Then we have our KPI, which is our key performance indicator that we're actually measuring on our scorecard. It's like if you're, measuring your gas tank, are you on empty or are you on full? That's the gauge that we're measuring. So that's what we want to look at on marketing. And so as you're building your scorecard, you'll notice at the bottom of your template, there's something here on examples. And so we have some examples here. You'll notice I also have, IT, HR, as well as additional categories. The reason I have that is because our companies are multi-million-dollar businesses. So we've broken it up into a little bit more granular detail. But starting off, minimum viable done version of this, you really just need marketing, sales, ops, finance, and then you could build from there. But I have these examples for you so you can just steal some of these examples if they're relevant for your specific business. When we look at KPIs, that's going to be like, let's say I'm going to put this here. So the KPI is ROAS. What the freak does that mean, Cody? For those that maybe don't spend a lot of money on marketing, that's going to be our return on ad spend. And so the calculation criteria is putting the description of how it's to be measured, because different companies measure data differently. Like, for example, I'll just take like a sales example. Some companies, they measure their sales by contract value, and some companies measure their sales by cash collected. Like, let's say, for example, I own a roofing company. I was trying to calculate the criteria based off of contract value. I go sign a new roofing deal today and the contract is for 50 grand. I contracted $50,000 in revenue, but I may have only collected from a cash standpoint $20,000 of that 50. So that is the purpose of your calculation criteria, is so that you and your team are on the same page of how we're coming up with this criteria, how we're calculating this. So on return on ad spend, it might be something as simple as this, where you're writing total dollars spent compared to total dollars earned. So that's essentially, okay, if we, in one of our companies, for example, we have a goal of having a minimum of a 3x return on ad spend. So I'll just put that here is 1-to-3 ratio, basically. So on this, what does that mean? So let's say, for example, I spend $1,000. I want to see a minimum three times on that. So I want to see at least a $3,000 return for that $1,000 that I spent. And so that's the 1-to-3 ratio. That's where I'm just putting that here so that the team's clear on what was the ratio for that week. Maybe on, this week, it wasn't a great week and we only got a 1-to-2. And that's going to be something that we're going to have to address and figure out why that's happening. For the sake of the exercise today, we're not going to identify what our specific targets or goals on some of these scorecard items are going to be. My recommendation is, as you're building your scorecard, is to start by measuring first. Measure your data for a month and then start setting your targets. Because the problem that most people make is they'll come on here and do something like this. They're like, okay, sales, cash collected, the total cash collected. So that's not going to be off contract value. It's just total cash that our company received. And they'll come in and people will ask me, they're like, Cody, what should I set as my goal? I'm like, well, where have you been? And they're like, I don't know. I haven't tracked anything. Well, how do we set a goal if we don't know where we are? We can go back to that example of driving from Arizona to New York City. If you're in North Dakota and you need to get to New York City, your path is going to be different than if you're in California and you're going to New York City, or Arizona and you're going to New York City. So you start with where you are now, you build on this to then create the goals. So I'll just take this example on sales here. Okay, so cash collected, total cash collected is how we're measuring it. Again, this is just the criteria. So people aren't reporting, and you're not reporting, your team's not reporting incorrectly based off of how we're deciding this is to be tracked. And let's say for this week, this is where you'll actually input the week by week data. So we have it all the way out for a year for you. So let's say, for example, this week I collected $25,000 in total cash. This week I collected $30,000. And this week I collected $15,000, maybe not as good of a week. And then this week, and $28,000. So after you've been able to see at least a pattern over a 3 to 4 week period, that is when I'd recommend at least setting some soft targets in this section here. So if I look here and I see, okay, well, over these last 4 weeks, I've collected $98,000. My average revenue collected per week, cash collected in the bank, it was, basically it was $24,500. Then I know, okay, it would be reasonable to say that we can count on generally around $25,000 a week in cash collected. So then we can actually go set a goal, which is our target, which we always want to stretch with our target. We want to always be trying to increase, on a cash collected target, maybe decrease on maybe an operating expense target. We want to set a goal for where we want to be going. And so let's say, I get to that point where 4 weeks in, I can confidently say, on average, we've been seeing about $25,000 a week. I want to see our team increase that target. And, you could set a goal. Maybe it's you want to get to $35,000 a week. That's the target. And so anytime we're under that, we're off target. And again, I would be putting more time into the thought process than just throwing out a random number. I'm just talking through how you're going to go through this process. You're going to start tracking. You're not going to have a set target. You're going to just start tracking these week by week to see what you're doing. And then you're going to be setting goals of, okay, if we've done this, we can grow to this next level. And we could be reviewing our scorecard to see what must be true to make sure that that can be possible. That's the goal here, is to be able to identify the trends in your business. And so as we're working on this together, I just want to speak to a couple things that this scorecard is going to allow you to do and what it's going to allow your life to feel like when you have that deserted island qualified scorecard. One is this is going to create accountability in your organization, because each person that's accountable for their individual department, marketing, sales, ops, finance, is every week going to be coming with the critical numbers and drivers in their department, showing what their progress was or what results they created in that last week. The other thing that this is going to do for you is it's going to create clarity of where the issues are in the business. For example, if we're seeing sales, cash collected is going down, well, maybe that's because our amount of leads from marketing is going down, or our sales team, we lost our best salesperson. And, that's another indicator that's causing us to collect less cash. The other thing that this does is it gives you the ability, when done right, that every single week you can literally within a couple of minutes know whether your business is healthy or if you're going in a negative direction, and for you to be able to bring this thing back on track so that you don't continue going down a negative path in your company. And then the other question could be, well, how much information should I be putting on here? Well, each of your company's departments should be tracking their own numbers in their individual department and bringing the 3 to 5 critical numbers to track in their department to this sheet, because this is your leadership dashboard. This is where you and the leaders within your company should be able to turn to and see how's marketing doing, sales, ops, finance from a high level. And then if something's off on here, that you can then go meet with a team member or a department head or your partner if they're running another, one of these other areas of the business, and be able to have a conversation of, hey, what's going on with marketing? Like, we're seeing the numbers have been off, the last 2 weeks. How are you going to fix that so we can get back on track with where our goals are? That's what this is going to allow you to do. And in a future video I'll be putting out, I'll show you how to put together your company by a specific department scorecard, because on here, again, you're likely only going to be looking at having 3 to 5 KPIs for a specific department. But you will have, like, let's say marketing, for example, they'll have their own dashboard that has significantly more data on it, because they're looking at a lot of different points that are then pushing up to those main numbers, which is like return on ad spend, because a marketing department may be spending money on Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, doing TikTok. Like, there could be a bunch of things that you're spending money on, but the main core pillar that we're looking at on the leadership level, that big picture review, is just the overall return on ad spend between all channels. Whereas the marketing department should be tracking into all of the more granular returns by marketing channel. Let's just add a couple on here for examples. Again, you have access to this example page. Let's just steal a couple here. Let's see. We already got return on ad spend. I like this one. Let's throw this bad boy on here as well. Whoa, that did not copy over well. So let's just type it out. So cost per lead. So another metric that we'd want to be looking at. How are we going to measure that? Well, what was our total spend on ads? Divided by number of leads. So that's how we're going to come up with that number. There's just a quick couple examples of metrics that you could track from the marketing standpoint. Sales, let's say cash collected. Let's just put a couple names on these. And then how we're measuring it, again, total cash collected. Another sales metric that we might want to be tracking is sales cycle. Average time from when a lead comes in to when it converts, in simple language. So basically what that means that we might want to track is our sales cycle. So let's say a lead comes in, on October 1st. A lead converts on October 15th. That would be a 14-day turnaround for that sales cycle. And so if we're tracking that on every single deal that's being done, we'll begin to create an average sales cycle. So then we know if we're getting leads today, and we know that it takes about 2 weeks for leads to convert, that's helpful information so that we can prep our sales reps, and we could be working with our sales manager to reduce the amount of time in that sales cycle. If it typically takes us 2 weeks from when a lead comes in to get, the cash from that lead, how can we get it to 10 days? How can we get it to 7 days? It's like, how can we constantly be reducing that sales cycle from when they come in to when they actually give us money? That's just another example that we could look at. Let's, look on the operational side. I like this one on the customer retention rate. Let's just put Cody on that. Customer retention rate. And then we will just grab that one over from here as well. Boom. So basically, this is an important metric for you service-based business owners, especially if you provide a recurring service, so that you know how long are your customers staying with you. Every time a new customer comes in the door, are they falling out the back door because the service is bad? That's just something that you want to be paying attention to. Another metric that we can look at on the operations side could be, let's do a net promoter score. And so you might be wondering, well, what the heck is a net promoter score? There's a website. You could literally just go to Google. You type in Delighted net promoter score on Google, and you can go to a page and learn about a net promoter score. Essentially, what your net promoter score is going to help you do is understand how happy your customers are and get a weighted average where you could be doing surveys to your customers to see how many of your customers would be promoters of your company, how many would be detractors, and how many are neutral. So basically identifying what your customer base looks like based on the service you're providing. So this would basically just be calculated as, survey sent out monthly to clients that have been on service for 30 days. And you could do different variations of this. Again, I'm just giving examples of stuff that you could be tracking that's going to be an indicator of, are you doing good or not? Because if we see a trend, like let's say, for example, like our net promoter score, it's scored on a 1 to 10, just for context on this. But let's say, we have an 8 this week, we have a 9 this week, we have a 7. I don't know what it's doing in dollars, but we'll leave it. We have an 8, and then all of a sudden we're getting 6, then 5, then 5, then 4. That should ring a red flag of, hey, we are doing something wrong. There is an issue in the business. We need to go investigate into why, when we're doing a survey, our customers, we're getting more people detracting or more people that are unhappy with our service than are happy. And this is where seeing this trend is going to be super important. And so as you're, tracking something like that, you're going to be able to see, are we slowly slipping, going backwards in the business, or are we slowly moving upwards in the business? So it's just something that you want to be paying attention to. Just another example. Let's see, under the finance side. This is a good example for finance. And so this wouldn't be something that, say, like every single week is done or not done, because you only close your company's financials once a month, but we'll use this as an example here. So I'm just going to put our CFO's name. Books closed on time. Well, what the heck is on time? Books are closed by the 5th of the month. And then the target is it's literally pass or fail. That's it. Like it's either done or not done. That's where, as you see, like some of these will be, a dollar amount on your target that you're going to set. Some of these will end up being a date range, like, 14 days or, 10 days. And then some could just be a pass or fail on your scorecard, whether that was done or not. Let's take another example here. So annualized gross profit per team member. So this is just another metric that you could be tracking in your finance department. Let's just use another example for finance. Let's say another thing that we like to track, especially, if you're doing different types of service work and you're getting additional payments. Let's do past due accounts receivable. Maybe that's an issue for your business. Let's do 30-day past due accounts receivable. So basically, it's been over 30 days since people have owed you money and they haven't paid you. So calculation criteria is any money owed to company 30 days or more late. That's essentially the calculation criteria. And that one you'd be setting essentially another, dollar figure on, which is going to be, ideally, hopefully as little as possible. And so you're getting all of the money from your customers. But that's something else from a financial standpoint that you want to be measuring to see how often are you having this issue with your customers. So then you can go and address that and assign someone accountable to make sure that you're collecting the money from the customers that they promised to pay you that they haven't paid you yet. Those are just a few examples. And so as you're building out your scorecard, what, again, you want to be thinking about are, if you only could measure 3 to 5 items per department, so marketing, sales, operations, finance, what would you need to see to know whether your business was healthy or not? That is what is going to allow you to pass that deserted island test, which is, I can look and see the most important metrics in marketing for my particular business, or the most important metrics for, sales or ops or finance, and know without talking to anybody that my business is healthy based off of, I have the KPIs that I'm looking at. I know how those KPIs are being measured, and I know what the targets are. And I know for in any individual given week, what data was put in to know whether we're thumbs up, our data looks good and we're on track for our numbers, or thumbs down, we are not, and we need to fix something. We need to address one of these KPIs. And so that, in a nutshell, is essentially what the scorecard is for your business. It's your company's car gauge system. It's so you can check your gas, how much gas you have. Is your check engine light on? Is your tire pressure light on? Do you have, some issue with your vehicle, that you need to address? And this is going to allow you to save hours and hours of wasted time in your business from attacking the wrong thing, so that you can put all of your focus, time, energy, and all of your efforts into the things that are going to make the biggest difference in your business, which is why the scorecard is so critical. And so, just recapping from the beginning, we talked about utilizing the scorecard is something you need to look at every week. You'll notice here, this is a weekly thing. You track the data every week and you update it every week so you can start to identify the trend. Once you've done that over a few weeks or a month, then you need to go in and set your targets of what you want to see happening on a weekly basis to see where you are versus target. And if you're on track or off track for that, what are you going to do to get back on track? Or if you're on track, great job, right? And so this is something, as you look at it every week, you will be able to save literally dozens of hours of time of wasted energy spending time in areas that don't really matter for your business, so you could focus on what matters the most. And by the way, if you're a service-based business owner and you're looking to scale your company into a high profit, multi-million-dollar self-managing company, myself and my team actually take on a few clients a month, and we help install into their companies our profit-powered scaling system, which are the same systems that I've installed into multiple companies that I own that generate multiple millions of dollars a year in revenue. Go ahead and click the link in the description below to see if you qualify to be one of the few companies that we work with this month to help you scale your company.